Here to review step number 65 of the 67 steps. Almost at the end, I'm getting excited. This one was called The Pierian Spring from Whence Cometh the Pride, the self-fulfilling delusion. And this one builds primarily off of the previous lesson of knowing who's in your room. When you're in a room with a bunch of people, the expert on that subject should be the one talking. Everybody else should be listening, or at best asking questions to the expert. And this is all about avoiding being a dilettante. A dilettante is a person that has a superficial interest in an art or branch of knowledge. And you know, they read one book, they read one article, they watch one newscast about a subject, and then pawn themselves off like they're an expert. And the central theme of this lesson is kind of echoes a poem by Alexander Pope that says, "Drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring. A little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring." And you know, Ty asks, have you ever been in a room watching a newscast or a speech by a president or prime minister, and they're talking about an issue, then have a friend walk in and just dismiss it as idiocy and just give their opinion on the subject even when they have no experience whatsoever? Don't be that person. And you know, if you ask that person that just spoke if they put in their 10 to 14,000 hours of expertise, and they probably didn't. So be more of a curious person. That person doesn't drink very deep in the wealth of knowledge. And you know, the dilettante doesn't drink very deeply from the Pierian spring. And you can't change other people, but you can change yourself. And like Abraham Lincoln said in a previous lesson, I learn from everybody I meet sometimes what not to do. And if we remember the inverse law from Charlie Munger, best way to figure out how to approach something is to figure out how not to approach something and do the opposite. And you know, the book Bounce suggests that we need about 14,000 hours to be an expert in our field. The author of that studied musicians, athletes, physicists, and saw that 14,000 hours took, you know, up to 10 plus years to get there. So certainly not going to get there by reading one article or just dabbling. And most people act like they have everything figured out, usually don't. And Ty has this great quote one time where he said, the people lecturing him about politics, usually their life is in shambles. And certainly there's times when you don't need to drink deeply from the wealth of knowledge. You know, you just need to get expert counsel. Ty explains how one time he broke his ankle playing basketball. He didn't need to sit there and go read a medical book before he went straight to the physician to get help. And you know, the paramedics go through these thousands of hours of training so that when they arrive at the scene of an injury, they know exactly what to do. That's why they say to someone that's already on the scene, don't touch the victim, you may injure them further. Whereas the dilettante would just start grabbing everything and just acting like they know what to do, and they'd make matters worse. A dilettante's a dangerous person. So don't listen to the dilettantes, they usually are the loudest. There's usually an inverse relationship between knowledge and talking. You know, even learning these 67 steps can make you feel like a dilettante, because we're learning 67 different principles, but we're not going very deeply on them. We're just kind of skimming the surface. So it's up to you to be more of a curious person and dive deeper into these lessons. And you know, Ty gives the example of George Karl, who is a Hall of Fame basketball coach that one time was having dinner with Ty, and despite his overwhelming success in basketball coaching, he still asked Ty his opinion on whether they should trade certain players or keep certain players on the team. And you know, Ty says, you need to make war with a multitude of counselors and double down on learning so that you're not a know-it-all. This is called earning your chops. And he says, habit is not skill, it only becomes skill over time. And remember, people who know a lot about money always have plenty. And knowing this principle should determine who you get your advice from and how you dispense it. His questions at the end of this lesson are, what's an example of something you've acted like you knew a lot about before you earned your stripes? And how are you going to implement what you've learned in this lesson? Thanks so much. See you on review number 66. Take care.